Moyes in, Moyes out. That's going to be the debate and discussion among West Ham United fans over the next 2 weeks, and understandably so, arguably rightly so as well. So let's talk about David Moyes, because it's another defeat for West Ham United at Goodison Park this afternoon. And it's not the defeat that's annoyed me and many other West Ham fans. It's the reasons for the defeat. The team selection, the tactics, the substitutions, the combination, all those things taken into consideration, which has led to the performance that we have witnessed at Goodison Park this afternoon, is the reason that we're having this discussion about David Moyes. Now, if it was a one-off, you'd write it off. You'd look forward to the international break being over, us playing Wolves in 2 weeks' time, getting back onto the European games in the group stage. Let's get through to the last 16 happy days. But it's not a one-off. It's a continuation of what we have seen so far this season. In fact, it's not even that. It's a continuation from what we've seen in the whole of 2022, essentially. Now, I've got a little bit of sympathy with David Moyes, actually, because he's not really doing anything different. The tactics that we're playing today is the tactics we played last season, and it's the tactics that we played the season before that, and the half a season before that. So, when he came in, we survived relegation. We've finished 6th in the Premier League, finished 7th in the Premier League. He's not really changed the tactics too much. And coming into this season, again, he's not really changed it. For sure, the formation on paper has changed up now and again. It might be a back four, a back three. But the attitude, the way we go about it, the way we try and play, hasn't changed all that much. What has changed is how our opposition view us, which has made it difficult. So, when we finished 6th, we were able to play counter-attacking football because teams weren't too fearful of us. As they started to respect us a bit more, we got a bit better, teams sat off a little bit more, we struggled to break teams down. And now, the second half of last season, we've been sussed out massively. I say we've been sussed out, Moyes has been sussed out massively. He had to change, he had to do something different, and he spoke about this himself in the summer. And this is part of the reason he's almost painted a target on his own back here by talking about how he has to change the way that West Ham play. He has to bring in sort of, I think they described it as jack-in-the-box type players, flair players that can open up low-block defences. He has spoken about this. He has spoken about the fact that Scamacca's not the same as Antonio, so we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to transition. We're going to have to be a better team. We're going to see a new West Ham. But the problem is, we're not. We're not seeing a new West Ham. Today wasn't part of the transition. This is the same West Ham that we saw last season. He's got new players, but it's the same tactics. I say new players, only 2 of them started. One of them being Thilo Kehrer. He's been fantastic since he came in. The other one today is Paqueta. But from what I can see, Moyes isn't too sure how to use Paqueta at the minute. What does he do? We haven't had that type of player under David Moyes. Jesse Lingard is a different type of player to Paqueta. Can Moyes get the best out of him? I don't know. We don't know yet. We have to wait and see. Now, had he started Emerson, had he started Flynn Downs, Maxwell Cornet, Gianluca Scamacca, Lucas Paqueta, if we had 6 or 7 signings, Areola and goal, then Moyes can come out and say, listen, I need time. These players you're going to have to let them get bedded in. Let them work out how West Ham play. Get used to each other. We're playing a new way at West Ham now. We need time. You've got to be patient. And I think he would have every right to say that. I think as fans, you'd almost have to accept it and take it on the chin a bit and go, fair enough. But he's not doing that. He's saying that, but he's not doing it. He's still playing the same tactics. He's still playing the same players. And then after the game today, he's essentially blaming the players for the defeat. But they're the players that you, the manager, are selecting. And some of them justified, some of them unjustified. Pablo Fornal starting today, for example, he didn't have to start. There's other players in form. Jared Bowen's been out of form since the start of the season. You're continuing to pick him, Moyes. You keep picking him. And then you've got Cornet, where he gets a handful of minutes at Stamford Bridge, comes on and makes an impression, wins a penalty midweek, but he's still not in the team. Comes off the bench and he's buzzing around looking good. Moyes is just not helping himself whatsoever here with the same old. Then he's complaining when the same old ain't working. And this is my biggest frustration, because any manager that spends big money, there's added pressure on them. There has to be. You've got to justify that spend up that we've just had in summer. It doesn't matter if you're at West Ham. There's pressure on Arteta this season because of the spend up they've had at Arsenal. The difference is he's doing it already. But as soon as you spend money, that brings pressure, and there's pressure on David Moyes. We need results. Now the question is he going to get the time? How long is the time? That's, I guess, the debate between West Ham fans, and this is where I'm going to give you my thoughts now, that I've sort of summarised so far. But during the game today, the commentator read out 2 statistics, which is damning for David Moyes. He stated that West Ham are 18th in the Premier League for possession this season. Now, when Moyes spoke about how we're transitioning in the summer, he's basically alluding to the fact that we're going to have more possession this season. Well, we're not. We've had the third least in the Premier League this season. So that would imply it's a counter-attacking style then, wouldn't it? I know it's not that straightforward, but it certainly imply that you're letting your opponents have the ball, you're looking to hurt them on the counter-attack. Now, I'm not against that, but the other stat, 19th in the league for sprints. So we're not counter-attacking and we're not keeping the ball. So what are we doing? And I think this is my biggest frustration. Today especially, I saw no game plan. I saw no obvious tactics, no obvious way that we were trying to hurt Everton. It was just a mess from start to finish. Even when he did the substitutions, there was no change in tactics. That was just like for like substitutions. And it was almost like he was believing that what he was doing was right. It was just the people on the pitch weren't doing it. Now, that argument stands up to some extent, but then he left Soufal on the pitch for 90 minutes. He left Fornals on the pitch beyond half-time. That first half was abysmal from West Ham, but he changed nothing at the break because that would suggest he was okay with what he saw. And I know people say, but it's David Moyes. He had this shall not lose attitude. He's always had this shall not lose attitude for me. He's always done it. It's just, it used to be enough. It used to get us wins for whatever reason. Whether it is because we could counter-attack, whether it was a little bit of magic when Jesse Lingard came in and had that purple patch, that earned us points. Whether it was through our strengths at set pieces, which has just disappeared out the window. Then you have to take into consideration the losses of his backroom staff. We lost Alan Irvine a couple of seasons ago. We've lost Stuart Pearce this summer. Is that a big factor in us struggling? I don't know. But that's what the board have to work out, I guess. What is happening at West Ham? Why are we struggling? Like I said, if we were playing the new players, that would be one of the reasons. I can accept that. But we're not playing the new players. We're playing the players that were here last season and struggling. And I think that's what makes it difficult for me, and that's what I struggle with. If David Moyes left tomorrow, I wouldn't be bothered. If it came up tomorrow, David Moyes has quit West Ham, I'd say, right, fine. It is what it is. Thank you very much, Dave. We move on and get someone else in. Do I want to see David Moyes sacked? Not really. Now, I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people are going to give me grief for this, but let me explain. And one thing I think is important when you do these videos is context, which is sort of my background or how I viewed Moyes from day one till today, I guess, because it's changed a lot. And I appreciate a lot of people watching this won't know what I felt about Moyes initially, but just to give a very, very bit of context, I didn't want him back when he came back to Pellegrini. I didn't want him. When his first time here, he kept us up. I thought the football was poor. I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was an easy enough gig to keep us up because when he came in, I thought we had better players and a better squad than those around us, and he did the job to keep us up. He did good to keep us up. That's all I thought. I thought it was good. He came back the second time. I didn't want him back initially. However, I'm not going to lie, he won me round. And it's difficult not to. We finished 6th in the Premier League. That was enough for me. I've been wanting European football for years at West Ham. I've been envious of watching Wolves, the likes of Wolves playing European football. And we've got managers who didn't really have that ambition. At times, under Moyes, we've played some fantastic football. I think a large part of that, like I said, is down to how teams approach us differently back then. Players were in form. If Jared Bowen was in the form he was last season, we'd be a better footballing side so far this season. But he's not. And that's okay. But replace him. Take him out the team. But we're not doing that, and that's the problem. So anyway, as for Moyes, I've never been David Moyes' biggest fan. But like I said, he's won me over. I put my hands up times a man and he said, I got it wrong. Turns out he should have come back. I got it wrong. I'm a football fan. I'm not a football expert or anything like that. That's all I am. A fan. End of. There, that's when you can use end of correctly for those Hammers Chat viewers that know the joke. End of. I'm a football fan, that's it. End of. But now I'm still not David Moyes' biggest fan, but I'm not eager to see him go out the door either. Now, the one thing that has slightly changed for me in previous managers, when we were having these discussions about Pellegrini and Slaven Bilic in the past, I've not been that bothered because I've been a bit like, well, what else is going to change? Because sacking the manager and bringing someone else in, the problems at the club were going to remain, which was we were poor in the transfer market. The owners didn't always splash the cash. And I just thought, if other things have to change that are contributing to us struggling, and I think that's been valid in the past, but now I think it's slightly different because I think we do have a better infrastructure at the club than we did under Pellegrini and Slaven Bilic. Now, ironically, a large part of that is down to David Moyes. David Moyes has helped put in that infrastructure at the club. Rob Newman's come in. We've now got a recruitment team in there that may be there because of David Moyes, but also if Moyes was to leave, they wouldn't necessarily leave with him, like of Grant Holt, for example, because yes, of course, David Moyes' son would leave with him, but when we sacked Pellegrini, Huselos went, and the entire scouting team left. Not only that, the entire data that they had compiled left as well. Everything disappeared. That wouldn't happen anymore. Moyes has put stuff in place to put West Ham in a better place going forward. And actually, it could be his downfall to some extent, because now if we were to sack him, the only thing that would have to change in theory is the manager and the backroom staff. I would assume the likes of Kevin Nolan would move on as well. But that's all that would have to change. Whereas previously, it got ripped out from not quite top to bottom, but pretty much a lot of that backroom staff disappeared as well. So it's slightly different. I do think the club are in a position where minimum. By the way, I don't think they'll sack him. I'll be shocked if David Moyes gets dismissed in the next 2 weeks. I'll be hugely surprised if he's not the manager for the Wolves game. But at the same time, when he comes back after international break, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a little bit of a time on him, where the board have said, let's give him X game, 5 games, whatever it is in the Premier League, get up to scratch. The problem I've got is, I think this is the last perfect opportunity to dismiss your manager until the World Cup. When we come back on the 1st of October, we've got 9 games in October. Weekend, midweek, all the way through. And it continues into November as well until we're at the World Cup. We have game. There's no time on the training pitch. There is very little time on the training pitch between games. So if we were to get a new manager in, he is going to struggle to implement his own ideas on that training field. He's not going to have the time that David Moyes has been afforded so far. Like I said, that's why I was disappointed on Thursday night, because he had had a week on the training ground with those players. I expected to see new ideas, new tactics, the start of the transition, and we never really saw it, and that's why I was disappointed, because Moyes was never going to have that luxury. I'm aware you say, well, hang on a minute, international break's 2 weeks. It is, correct, but half the players are missing now. The likes of Rice, Bowen, Soufal, Souček, Paqueta, Areola, Emerson, Scamacca, Antonio, all called up for international duty. He's got half a squad left behind to work with over the next 2 weeks. But this would be the last chance, I think, for West Ham. And I don't use West Ham as the same as Leicester, because Leicester City don't have European football. If they dismiss Brendan Rodgers, they get someone in. They've got a week on the training ground to the next game. The new person at West Ham wouldn't be afforded that. So you're coming on the Monday, you've got a game on Thursday, get ready. Oh, and also, it's over in Belgium. So on the plane, you're off to Anderlecht tomorrow morning. So it's difficult. The board are in a difficult position. How long does David Moyes get? I don't know. I was trying to think about it for myself before I recorded this. I thought, well, how long would I give him? I don't know. I think you'd have to judge it game by game. But I do think, even though I'm not his biggest fan, I do think he's earned enough credit in the bank to be given the chance to turn it around. He's not had, since he's come back, since he returned. Now, there was that period when he returned after Pellegrini before COVID where he was crap. Moyes was, one of my friends keeps reminding me, I think he's 1 defeat away from being our worst ever manager in terms of win percentage. COVID struck, Premier League had a break, we come back and we played like Barcelona for a month, didn't we? Mikel Antonio was banging in goals left, right and centre, but Moyes used that time to get stuff sorted out, and credit to him. But since then, since COVID essentially, we've just been good. Last season, second half of last season, we were rubbish. in the domestic campaign, the European campaign, probably masked over it a little bit, paper over the cracks kind of thing. But this is the first time really where I think the pressure's getting ramped up on Moyes a little bit, where he's under the microscope a little bit more because he's had to spend up. But while the European campaign's going okay, I think it's different. The group stage of the Europa Conference League is far different to the knockout stage of the Europa League, because while we were struggling in the Premier League last season, we were getting ready for Sevilla, then we were getting ready for Lyon, then we were in the semi-finals against Frankfurt. That was a distraction for West Ham fans. It almost not justified the poor performances. They were warning signs, but you almost dismissed them a little bit because it was like, right, okay, the Premier League's gone a bit rubbish. However, we've got this European campaign, and listen, if you ask me, you'll finish 12th but you'll win the European competition, I'll take that any day of the week. I will. And I had a bit of that last season where, yes, okay, the Premier League's going a bit crap, but you know something, if we win that Europa League, it's all worth it. But now, while the domestic form has continued, let's get up on the screen, there you go, it's continued the domestic form. The European one can't really paper over the cracks anymore because it's a completely different competition. And like I said, the transition is the reason I'm most frustrated by. We're not seeing a change. Those stats, 19th for sprints in the league, which suggests a possession-based game. Oh no, we're 18th in the league for that. That would suggest a counter-attacking game. It's neither. And I'm struggling to see the tactics in the game plan. Now, worst case, I guess for the board, I'd expect and I would hope that they are at least making up a short list of managers in the next 2 weeks that they would go after should they have to sack David Moyes after the international break. A list of 5 to 10 managers on there, 1 to 10, who they want, so that if they do need to dismiss David Moyes, they can move like that. They know exactly the person they want to go get. And in football these days, conversations happen in the background. I'm not saying I want them to happen today, but if they knew they were going to go have to sack David Moyes, at least get 1 or 2 of them sounded out so that they know who's interested, who's not interested, so that when he does go, and hopefully he doesn't, they can go get their new man. So to summarise where I am, I'm not Moyes in or Moyes out really. I'm a bit Moyes meh, if that makes sense. But I think because I'm never been his biggest fan, it's not really I'd say a huge surprise. It's not a huge surprise. It's a huge frustration though, but it's not a huge surprise. And the fall from grace isn't there for me because I've never really held him up there as such. So I think I'm not laid back or anything. I'm worried. I'm frustrated. I'm angry to some extent. But I'm not surprised. So we'll see. I think it's a game-by-game thing for me. I would expect and would like to see a huge reaction against... We would need one, wouldn't we? He'd have to go win 2-3 of the next Premier League games out of the next 5 or something to get back on track. But I don't know. Like I said, this is the last perfect opportunity to sack David Moyes if they want to, because we're running into a real tight schedule of games. So if you're going to have Moyes, I think you're almost going to have to stick with him to some extent. But if not, just bloody make sure you know who you're going to go after anyway. Anyway, I'm going to disappear now. Thank you very much for tuning in. That's my thoughts on it. I think he deserves a bit of time to turn around, but can we afford him that time? I don't know. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. All I'll ask, try not to bicker. If people are Moyes in, leave your comments. Give us your reasons why. If you're Moyes out, give your reasons why in your comments below. But just don't tell each other they're wrong. I don't like it when people do that. It's their opinion. They're right. You just disagree with it. That's all it is. You just don't see it the same viewpoint as somebody else. That's fine. It's good. It's healthy. It's only healthy if it's a debate and not an argument, or someone saying, well, you're wrong for being Moyes in because you should be Moyes out. They don't have to be Moyes out if they don't want to be. Likewise, if someone's Moyes in, you know what I mean. I'm getting muddled on. I'm going to disappear. Drop a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to Hammers Chat. I'll be back on Tuesday morning. We're not uploading tomorrow for obvious reasons, so I shall see you on Tuesday morning. Catch you in a bit.